you know, I understand that George Bush Jr. and Tony Blair and everybody got us into a war in Iraq with I think, you know, the intention, a good one, to remove Saddam Hussein and try and put in a better regime, but they hadn't thought through how that would happen. And in the end, all that really took place was that we removed all these zones of authority, all the power structures in Iraq. The civil service evaporated, the army dissolved, and there was a vacuum. And the result was that it was filled by by sectarian religious strife and by some very hard, nasty, tough guys, particularly Al-Qaeda, who weren't in Iraq before then. So to say that you know, the war in 2003 made no difference, or that the situation would have happened anywhere, is, I think, pretty implausible.
But Boris, I mean, you said you think Tony Blair needs psychiatric help. I mean, how unwell do you think he is?
Well, you know, I'm speaking metaphorically. Well, obviously, I think that he needs. It's very important that people in this country should recognise our armed services do a fantastic job, and they're capable of doing huge amounts of good around the world. We spend about £34 billion on defence. We have fantastic people and all the rest of it. And in many parts of the world, in many difficult places, they do a very good job, and they help improve things. I don't think that in Baghdad, in Iraq, in 2003, in the end, we did make things better. I have to be totally honest with that. And all I'm saying to Tony Blair is, you know, the case for intervention elsewhere would be more powerful if we accepted that in that particular case we got things wrong.
And just very finally, Boris, I mean, you have to accept that people will find it difficult, considering you voted for that war.
Absolutely, and as I made clear in that article, I did vote for the war because I voted for it in the naive and fond belief that there was indeed a plan for the aftermath. And I assumed that we had ready to go a new government, institutions of civic society, as we did with post-war Germany in 1945. There was a great deal of continuity, and the thing didn't go off the cliff. That happened, unfortunately, in Iraq. There was no continuity whatsoever. And that created a vacuum, which has been filled, tragically, by Al-Qaeda operatives and terrorists. Now, Simon says, what would you do now? What's the way forward? And what I'm saying is, around the world, in Syria, in Iraq, wherever, there may be things that British forces can do. You should not rule out the possibility of constructive engagement, constructive intervention to make things better. But if you're going to make that case to the British people, which is a difficult case, you've got to be very, very circumspect about what you can achieve. And you've got to be honest about where things have gone wrong.
So you've seen troops on the ground or weapons to Syria?
I think that's very unlikely.
But you were in favour of giving weapons to Syria?
I think you need to look very carefully at who you're supporting. I mean, it goes back to the point. You need to look very carefully at who you're supporting and what the outcomes are going to be. And you shouldn't delude yourself.
Well, you agree with Tony Blair, though, in terms of intervention in Syria, that actually you regret not going in, or at least helping in Syria?
Well, I think things have moved on a lot in Syria. I mean,
And do you think some form of military help in Iraq would be helpful?
Well, look, it's not. I'm not sufficiently expert in that. You need to go to
But certainly something needs to be done.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you shouldn't exclude the possibility of British intervention where it can work.